I yield my time to you.
And thank you for your leadership, Congressman Moore. We appreciate it very, very much. And Mr. Speaker, last week on April the 2nd, the New York Post published an op-ed which explained the proven conservative position of peace through strength. This continues the world-changing success for expanding freedom of Senator Barry Goldwater and President Ronald Reagan. There are over 20 countries now of Central and Eastern Europe and Central Asia that are free today because of the defeat of Soviet communism, which war criminal Putin wants to revive. Quote, the article is that kudos to Speaker Johnson. Moving Ukraine aid is critical to national security, by Daniel Kochis, a senior fellow of the Hudson Institute's Center for Europe and Eurasia. The Hudson Institute was founded by the visionary Herman Kahn and is universally respected for its research and accuracy. I am grateful to find and learn that Ambassador Governor Nikki Haley of South Carolina will now be a valued fellow. The column in the New York Post reads, quote, Speaker Michael Johnson's Easter announcement that he'll bring a new Ukraine aid package to a vote is welcome news. Congressional backing for Ukraine assistance has been mired in the political muck for months. With more than 5,000 miles away on the front lines, the maddening impasse has needlessly cost Ukrainian lives and territory. 3/4 of Americans recognize the Russian war against Ukraine and the conflicts that allies Israel and Taiwan face are important to U.S. national interest. It's time Congress got on the same page as its constituents and found a way to move critical support over the finish line. For Ukraine, the dearth of new aid has left soldiers to ration ammunition. Russia's artillery advantage has consequently increased by an order of magnitude. Moscow has been firing 5 times the number of shells per day as Kyiv for most of the year. And this isn't in the article, but you should understand many of these shells came from North Korea, from the DPRK, from the dictatorship there, which is also threatening our ally of South Korea and Japan. Russian forces simply out-pummel Ukraine's defenders. Some good news just 2 weeks ago. The Czech Republic has stepped into the breach in a major way, scouring the world to secure 800,000 artillery shells. The first batch could reach Ukraine early this month, a lifeline that would allow defending forces to start shooting more rounds, secure in the knowledge that replacements are on the way. But while the Czech Republic's role as intermediary in finding, purchasing, and securing permissions for export of critical stocks of munitions is phenomenal, it will not fill the void left by a lack of American assistance and leadership. It is in America's interest to continue to aid our friends, most especially those defending their families and homes in Ukraine. Inaction not only harms U.S. national interests, it is expressly not what the American people have told policymakers they desire. Multiple recent polls have found a majority of Americans continue to back the aid for Ukraine, both economic and military. Behind closed doors, most congressional members recognize the importance of continuing assistance. From a military point of view, Ukraine is far better off today than it was 2 years ago, and Russia is far worse off. And though from a normal moral perspective, the war remains starkly black and white, declined, the administration following the war to fester, allowing the war to fester by continuing to balk at sending Ukraine the systems it needs to win hasn't helped. Team Biden's shocking, short-sighted, and incompetent Afghanistan withdrawal is still fresh on the minds of many Americans, and they do not want a repeat. But failing to robustly stand with Ukraine and decisively defeat Russia makes this specter more likely to happen. The outcome of Russia's genocidal campaign there will have far broader implications for America's future security than either Afghanistan or Iraq. There is, however, room for optimism. Unlike in Afghanistan or Iraq, America is not a combatant in Ukraine, but we do benefit from its success. Despite some territorial setbacks, Ukraine can defeat Russia and its backers of Beijing, Pyongyang, and Tehran, and its allies' consistent, stout backing. The situation on the front lines and in the minds of Americans is far from irretrievable, but it starts with Congress finding the will to do what is in the long-term American interest. Send Russian President Vladimir Putin a clear, bipartisan message that the United States will stand by Ukraine for the long haul. Conservative lawmakers certainly have a duty to engage the administration on the migrant crisis, an issue of key importance to the public, but they should do so separately, recognizing Ukraine's national security of its importance. Linking aid to migration is a disservice to the American people. Support for Ukraine is not a worthless donation, but a down payment on a more secure and prosperous future. The American people know this. The Congress should prove it does too, end of quote. And I would like to also offer for inclusion in the congressional record a op-ed that I provided in the Washington Times of February the 9th, 2021 and 2022. And this indicates why Ukraine matters for American families, a destabilized world with higher inflation and gas prices. And indeed, this op-ed, over 2 years old, actually is as true today as it was when it was published, and that is, it does matter to American families, and we need to be understanding to protect the borders of Ukraine, of Israel, Taiwan, and America. With that, I yield back.